What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome to Leafs Digest. Breaking down Game 4 of the Leafs vs. Habs playoff series, Round 1. Leafs take this one 4-0 in a dominating win against the Montreal Canadiens to take a 3-1 series lead, and I honestly just could not be more fired up. I think the Leafs have been playing incredible since that Tavares injury and since Game 1. Honestly, looking back on it now, I think even more so, it just shows that that game was just an outlier, and just everything that we've said has kind of just played out as is since that point of just the Leafs even played well that game, but they were just a little bit shooken up and discombobulated in that first game, leading to just a 2-1 loss. Like, it's not even like they got blown out of the water there. And since that point on, there's been no looking back. This team has just continued to roll, continued to play as we expected them to. These aren't even just the Leafs we wanted to see. These are the Leafs we needed to see, because this is what this team is. This is what this team is going to be. And this is what this team has been all season long. So that first game, just an outlier. You just write it off at this point. You just move on. And the boys are keeping my prediction alive of Leafs in 5. So I couldn't be more happy about that.
Yeah, my prediction's still sitting at 6 because I realize a hiccup can happen here and there, but we've been essentially spotless since that game. So you're totally right to say that was an outlier. Even at the moment, we reviewed Game 1. We talked about we need to extend a huge benefit of the doubt to the guys on a night like this. When you come out of the gate so hot, so confident, and then your captain goes down in just such a graphic fashion. I felt okay writing off that game because I was at home shook. I can't imagine how the guys on the ice felt. So since that point, they've been spotless. Campbell's been the absolute man. I'm sure we'll break that down a little bit more as we go, but a huge shutout for him tonight. And that's just been clockwork. He's been everything we could have asked out of the goaltender. And especially considering he was our second guy, our second option for most of the season, most of the time he's been here, he's blowing those expectations out of the water big time. And I love his attitude.
Yeah, honestly, let's just go right into Campbell right now, because you're right. Campbell has been a stud this entire playoffs. I honestly even just look at that Game 1, and we both said, like, there's nothing you can fault Campbell for in that game, really. He played an incredible game. I'm pretty sure he had like 33 saves or something along those lines, let in 2 goals, both breakaways. And then the one we even said was just a fluke. Like, the first goal, really, really good goal. Second goal, fluky goal. Like, it's unpredictable as to what that guy's going to do, falling down on his knees, cross in front of the net, sliding, and then kind of chips it short side over his shoulder. What are you going to do in that situation? And he never let that get him down, even throughout the rest of that game. Like, he still continued to play stellar. And then from then on, we've just seen him be the Jack Campbell that he was, even in that like 11-game heater that he had to start the season. It's just, he has been everything that we needed him to be, and honestly, almost everything that we've expected him to be. And he is really showing to be. And again, I know I've said this a million times, and I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse, but it's just that he is right now an elite goaltender. We are watching someone in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs who is an elite goaltender right now. Maybe not next year, maybe not in years past, but right now he's an elite goaltender. And the fact that he is showing up every night and matching, if not outplaying, Carey Price is huge for this team, because we have seen in years past so many nights where the other goalie stands on his head and the Leafs play incredible, but we just can't get a performance out of Freddie, and then it just lets us down.
Yeah, Freddie's been really spotty with the Leafs, and we've always known his potential and his outlook. He's really level-headed as well, which is something Campbell does that I think is underrated about Freddie. Even though he'll let in 4 goals that, maybe 2 of which shouldn't have gone, he's still going to be the same Freddie after the game, which I think is a big positive for a goaltender. Can never get too shook, but big props also need to go to the way the Leafs are playing defense now. And you look at the Brody-Bogosian pairing, when they're out there, they're taking care of business absolutely to a T. So that's something that we can't overlook in overhyping Campbell, especially in the scope of this matchup with Carey Price. Carey Price tonight, he did play well. He had to stop 2 basic breakaway goals. He had, I think it was Mikheyev and Spezza both had breakaways.
Spezza and Hyman. Yeah.
Spezza and Hyman. Yeah. So Spezza and Hyman, 2 quality opportunities, 2 great saves. The goals we squeaked past them tonight weren't easy either. So I think Carey Price, especially in this no pressure environment, is still going to keep playing huge, but the depth drop off, or I should just say overall skill drop off between these two teams is almost non-comparable. I predicted a full sweep of the team for a reason. I think the Leafs are the clear favorites here and have been, but Campbell's doing his job, and that's the important thing. And you're right, he looks elite in our system. And for that time being, it's going to make him an elite goaltender. And I hope we can ride that all the way to the finals.
So one thing that you kind of mentioned before the playoffs started was you were a little bit concerned about the physicality Montreal was going to bring and the size of their lineup that they were going to bring. How do you feel now after watching 4 games into this series, the Leafs on a 3-1 lead and the wins that they've had? How do you feel about, and not just against Montreal because we're going to see physical teams moving forward, but how do you feel about the Leafs' ability to play the physical game?
It's interesting. I'd almost say that this year in the playoffs doesn't even look too much up from the physical pace of previous years, believe it or not. And I say that just from the standpoint of I think that having these guys in our lineup hasn't directly made everyone hit more. I mean, it has to a certain degree. We see it with Matthews even, but it's more just that teams aren't taking ridiculous liberties on the Leafs anymore.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
it's more of like an insurance policy. Now we can just play a normal brand of playoff hockey without getting suckered every other play. Like it was actually really brutal watching us face the Capitals that one year. And then obviously the Bruins as well. Like it just, we get a ton of liberties taken on us. Columbus did it as well. It's just, the list goes on of teams that have picked on us. But finally the Leafs have the guys to come and shut that up if it happens. So I'm noticing it more in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point that you made actually, is that I would say, even just to add on to it and make it like even more so, is just Montreal came out and decided they were going to play very physical. They were just going to be a very physical team. But that doesn't necessarily translate to success in regular season nor playoffs, like even when the physicality is amplified in the playoffs. And I think, to your point, the Leafs are playing what is very high quality playoff hockey, right? Like it's that in upped physicality, and you're not every shift is just running out of your mind like we've seen the Habs do, trying to go after guys on the Leafs. Especially I look at guys like Joel Edmondson, Ben Sherratt, and Shea Weber. To be honest, as this series has gone on, I continue to look at those 3 guys, and Shea Weber I think is an elite defenseman, obviously, but I look at Joel Edmondson and Ben Sherratt, and I just think like I group Weber in there because he has those tendencies that kind of creep in where he just forgets to play hockey. And like he looks like he doesn't know what, like, well, not just him specifically, but Sherrod and Edmondson mostly, but they look like they don't know how to play hockey. And they're just running around trying to bash guys, and they're just making fools out of themselves and then on a parade to the penalty box.
Yeah, I think Sherratt's actually a really good player. I like how versatile he is, but you're right. Sometimes he's out there on a mission that's not necessarily going to help you if you're marching to the box. So he's one of those guys that plays close to the line and goes over. Shea Weber, let's talk about some of the international hockey hits this guy's had. He should go to jail after that. Honestly, if you guys are at home hearing about this, go Google it. I don't know how it flies under the radar, but some of the dirtiest stuff I've seen on the ice.
I need to say the one I know for sure you're talking about, because you and I have watched it numerous times. It's Shea Weber, international hockey, playing against, he hits Yannick Weber. It's potentially one of like the dirtiest hits I've ever seen in my life. If you get a chance to go on YouTube, yeah, honestly, it's Weber ends up being okay, but like seriously, if you Yannick Weber ends up being okay, but if you get a chance, like go look at this hit, because it is terrifying, honestly, like what he does to the guy. It's crazy. But yeah.
Philly, and also on that point though of this march that they're going to the penalty box with, I'll be honest, even though they have some guys out there just trying to provide a physical spark, I haven't noticed it to that same point of previous years where it just feels like we're getting beaten on by those guys and literally getting beat by them. And I think this is a great time, like I said, just to rewind to game 1 where Felina absolutely pumps Perry for making an accident.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we start to understand, okay, maybe there was some merit to that. I haven't really seen the Canadiens try anything too gutless, and then we're going into, the depths of a playoff series now, and we're looking to win, and they still haven't done anything really that scummy. And the one thing that happened was an accident, but you set the tone like that. You took down our captain. He's on the ice. We know you go do the same thing. Time to answer the bell. So I love that. I think it's set the precedent for a better series for the Leafs.
No, you're right. I hadn't connected that to this point. I kind of just like slipped by in my mind. I hadn't really even I hadn't even really thought about that Felina fight against Perry, but honestly, I think it would, even if it's not like a huge factor and it's like the be all end all of why things are playing out the way they are with the physicality, I do think it has some sort of impact going forward, because you know that those guys are going to stick up for themselves. And then on the flip side of that, not just the tough or the guys who play tough on the Leafs, but you have other guys in this lineup who are elevating their game to include that physicality. We've talked about Matthews getting physical, Kerfoot, we talked about last game, just engaging in the physical part of the game. And that just leads me to that second line that we saw tonight of Galchenyuk, Nylander, and Kerfoot. I really, really liked seeing them play together. I obviously want Nick Foligno back in this lineup. I think the team is better with him in it. I think that goes without question. And then John Tavares as well, if he gets healthy and is able to play at 100%, having John Tavares in this lineup is significantly better and improves this lineup drastically. But that second line of Kerfoot, Galchenyuk, and Nylander, man, they seem to be not be letting anything slow them down. And Nylander continuing to roll 4 straight games with goals. It's incredible that the level Nylander has elevated his game to here.
It is incredible. And obviously, Galchenyuk's my boy. I love that game from him, but I'm going to start with Willie because I saw something from him that I've never seen before. I was looking at him out there on the ice and I was like, something looks different about him. And I noticed his hair for the first time ever wasn't perfect. It was sweaty. Go look at the thumbnail of our last video. This wasn't by plan. I didn't know Willie was going to play like this tonight. If you go look at that video, it's an old picture. We had to get it because it was a great thumbnail picture of Willie and he played great. So we put it up there. His hair perfectly intact.
Yeah.
You look at him tonight, he's drenched in sweat. He is working his tail off. I love to see that from Nylander, the pretty boy. It's okay. He goes into the corners now too. He's getting it done for us in the playoffs. And then Galchenyuk with the performance of a lifetime, despite going offside about 1 million times.
Yeah.
So overall, great stuff from the second line. I love it.
Yeah, that like Nylander scoring like that is just incredible because it just continues to add that offensive depth that this team needs and support that this team needs, because you can't just lean on that first line to try to score goals. And you even look at Matthews has only got points in 1 game of the 4 in this series thus far. So like the fact that we've won games 2-1 or in order 5-1, 2-1, and now 4-0, and Matthews only has points in 1 of those games is pretty impressive stuff, because the rest of the team is contributing and raising their games to be able to contribute offensively as well as play shutdown defensively. And one thing that I actually kind of thought of, and I'm not saying this is the line, and there's obviously differences here and there, but I'm almost relating this Galchenyuk, Kerfoot, Nylander line to the HBK line of the Penguins from a couple years ago when they went on those back-to-back cup runs of Hagelin, Bonino, and Kessel. And I kind of just see the guys slotting in as like Kessel, Nylander, Hagelin, Kerfoot, and then you almost have like Bonino. I would say Bonino and Galchenyuk are different players, but like still both bring energy to that line and a level of grit as well as skill. So I kind of like what we're seeing, because they're also, we always look at the Leafs and say, you can't play with just skill. You can't play with just skill. Well, that line is just skill. Like, it's very, very skilled line, and they have been proving to be very successful this playoff series.
Yeah, and in the playoff series, you would worry about it getting to them a little bit when you're that skill reliant, and guys like Kerfoot, they get ragdolled out there, but they're providing so much energy. They're doing it with their legs first. The hustle out there is different from that line, and like I said, I can see it on Willie. And so it's awesome to see. And when you have your star, like you give the HBK line example, if Crosby's not having his night, they're going to need to go have a night. If Malkin's not having his night, they're going to need to go have a night. You look at Marner and Matthews, it's the same sort of deal. And Marner, Matthews, like you said, I didn't pay attention to that stat, but you are right that he's only had points in one of those games. So he hasn't been a night in guy for us, unfortunately, in the playoffs so far, but it doesn't matter. We're up in the series. I'm sure that's all he cares about. And with that second line clicking, I think our prospects are moving on, not even into the second round, but beyond that, are real good, just like a Pittsburgh would be.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the topic of that second line, I want to get into the Poppy power play of the day. So I'm going to give the Poppy power play of the day to Alex Galchenyuk's assist on the William Nylander goal. Not only does it open the scoring of the game, gets Nylander his 4th goal in 4 straight games of the playoffs, which is just incredible to watch. But what a pass by Galchenyuk to have the whereabouts, to know where Nylander was, the ability to get that puck to him, but also the puck retrieval from the pass through from Kerfoot. That pass by Kerfoot was just complete needle threading at its finest, slipping it through almost on a straight line to Galchenyuk, cutting across through the slot in front of Carey Price. Galchenyuk able to receive that puck on his backhand, on his right foot, pull it across, and then be able to spin around, no-look backhand pass to Nylander coming in backdoor. I think that just sets the tone of, we're here to play, we're here to bring the speed, the skill, we're going to outwork you guys, we're going to beat you guys all over the ice, and we're just going to put up highlight reel goals while we do it, which I think is just an incredible thing. And that second line being able to chip in right away to start to open the scoring of tonight's game is also big, especially with the things we just mentioned in terms of the scoring depth of this team. So I'm giving my Poppy power play of the day to Alex Galchenyuk's assist on the William Nylander goal.
I got to give my Poppy power play of the day to Jason Spezza's goal. How fired up was he after that?
Yeah.
He's got to be, we've talked about him so much. He's got to be our favorite signing that Dubas has done in the past 2 years. Definitely not the biggest, but he's one guy who's came in on a veteran minimum and exceeded expectations on and off the ice. He was truly what we needed from a character standpoint, a skill standpoint, everything coming together for Spezza, and he's found a great role with the team. And that goal just epitomizes it. You could see it in the celebration. It was electric. I felt that moment big time, and I was so happy for him.
Yeah, I loved it. I love seeing it. And honestly, just a smart play by him heading to the net like that. And again, a perfect pass from Alex Galchenyuk. One of his 3 points of the night, 1 goal, 2 assists. So
he thread that one. I was also going to say Galchenyuk is out there putting on a passing clinic. We don't say he's a puck possessive player, but when he's dishing it like that, I guess, we'll give him opportunities to set up his lineies if he's going to do it like that.
Yeah, and then honestly, you bring up Jason Spezza like that. The veterans, I've been loving what I'm seeing from Jason Spezza, Joe Thornton, and Wayne Simmons. Wayne Simmons is not a guy who's going to get up on the score sheet every night or even that often, but just his physical play, engaging in scrums after basically every single whistle. I know there was a play last game, I didn't mention it, but Josh Anderson flips over him, and as soon as Anderson flips over him, he just cross-checks Anderson to the ice again. Potentially a penalty, but it's the playoffs. Let the kids play. They move on from it. And then it's just, he's bringing that physical presence. He's bringing a ton of energy, if nothing else. Smashing guys into the boards. His speed. He's still bringing skill to the table and vision and hockey IQ. And then you go on to Jason Spezza and Joe Thornton. What we're seeing from those two guys, Joe Thornton had a terrible first game, and it was honestly one of those things where people were looking at saying, do we need to scratch him? Do we need to put him in the press box? Since that point, I have had no problems with Joe Thornton, and then him getting on the board tonight has got to feel great for not only himself, but the rest of the boys to watch him be able to contribute offensively in a series like this.
Yeah, he covered it up. He had a better poker face than Spezza did. Spezza let loose after that goal, but Joe Thornton, he tried to act a bit more calm and collected. I know on the inside he was going crazy too, because I'm sure he, being a great hockey player, great hockey mind, knows that the game one was terrible. You got to bounce back from then. He's only just played solid in between then, so to go pot one in a close game is awesome. I love that for Thornton. I think it's a great sign. I also don't think that Thornton's been, just to echo my earlier comments there, I don't think he's been amazing for us. I think that he's filled a good role, not the ideal role that maybe some people would have envisioned when they heard Joe Thornton was coming and signing in Toronto. But again, we got to be realistic here about his age. He's still offering us a lot. And even what's not going on the ice, a Joe Thornton goal is good for morale. I'll leave it at that. But it's visible on the guys that when Jumbo's happy and he's in a rhythm, it's contagious.
Yeah, for sure. And then going on to some guys who were in and out of the lineup tonight. So we'll start with Adam Brooks. He's a guy who hopped into that Thornton Spezza line. He took the place of Riley Nash. How did you feel about Adam Brooks making his playoff debut tonight?
I haven't been a huge fan of Nash. I think that when he's out there, it really shows that he hasn't had time to integrate with the team. He's coming back off of injury, fresh into the playoffs. So I can't really hold it against him. And I certainly respect Riley Nash. I think he's a good player. And I think if some, knock on wood, another big injury were to happen and he was forced to take more consistent big role, I think he would settle into it and eventually be okay. But right now, I am okay giving a guy like Brooks the chance, even though Brooks doesn't blow me away either. I think he's just a sound player. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes. He's obviously got some offensive upside. Take a look at the hockey DB for his junior stats.
Yeah.
He can bury it, I guess. Again, we haven't seen a ton of it at the next level, but I think he's solid at this point, probably a bit more of a reliable pick than Nash, but that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with having Brooks in there with Nash, if for nothing other than the fact that Brooks has been here for the entire year and spent a considerable amount of time on that Spezza Thornton line. So he's very familiar with those guys, has some chemistry with them, and has some chemistry with the rest of the guys on the team. Even just and I have no idea what Riley Nash is like in the room, but just saying like Brooks being around here, these guys know what he's like. He knows what the guys are like. He knows what the chemistry is, what the morale is, and how to fit into that locker room right now. And I kind of like having him in there, just even if he brings the exact same thing as Riley Nash on the ice, skill-wise, his play-wise, the rest of what he can bring around the team, I kind of like having him in there, and just the comfortability with him having been here and knowing the team and the systems and everything. I like having Brooks in this lineup.
That's another thing I would say too, and I bit my tongue on it a little bit because Riley Nash is 32 years old. He's an NHL veteran, so him getting a cup is definitely a really important thing, but we've got sort of some rental type players in Leafs jerseys right now, guys who probably won't be around for much longer outside of a couple short contending window. I mean, we'll contend for a while, but it comes in waves, the contention, because you'll need to retool every once in a while. I would almost rather see a guy who hasn't cut any corners in the process, is really trying to earn a job here in Toronto and has been, like Brooks, to come up and get the opportunity, especially when you're a bit shaky. Like, you shouldn't give the benefit of the doubt to Riley Nash. I would say go with the hot hand. Youth is of the movement in pro sports right now. I think that Brooks is the better fit.
So now moving on to Rasmus Sandin. He comes out of the lineup to give Travis Dermott his first look in these playoffs. What did you think about that move? Were you happy with it? Did you care? Like, what did you think about that?
I was surprised. I think if it was a bit more of a tight series, Sandin stays in.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably the right time. We can feel ourselves in the driver's seat. We know that we belong in at least the next round, and we'll get there and bite that off when it comes. But in the meantime, I don't mind them giving Dermott a sniff. I think Dermott's a good defenseman. I just like what Sandin's doing more. So at first I questioned it and didn't like it, but once we settled in, I was probably happy to think that Dermott now is going to be able to have a bit more experience under his belt. And if he needs to get flung back in again, it'll be just that much better for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I was surprised, not upset, but surprised. I'll leave it at that. What do you think?
No, I'm on the exact same page as you here. I was surprised as well, but I wasn't upset with it. I think you're right. Is like you looked at the series before tonight 2-1 and you don't say, oh wow, we have a commanding lead. But when you watch the play of this team in the first 3 games of the series, even the game that we lost, you could tell Toronto's being the better team throughout the entire process. So I think Sheldon Keefe and the rest of the Leafs management felt pretty confident with what the Leafs were like, how the Leafs are controlling play and stuff, and to be able to give Travis Dermott that chance. It's again, like you said, like if something comes up where you need to put someone else into this lineup, you now at least have a guy who has gotten a feel in playoff hockey this year. It's not just last year, oh, he played a couple games, or yeah, he played with this regular season. Now you have a guy who got some ice time and got to like a sniff of playoff hockey this year, who can rely on that if push comes to shove and he needs to hop into the lineup. And I also don't think that this means Sandin's going to be out in the next game or for the rest of the series or whatever the case may be. I think we see Rasmus Sandin back in the lineup in Thursday's game 5, sorry. And I don't know. I'm pretty confident in that. So I didn't mind him coming out tonight. I was surprised as well, but I wasn't upset by it at all.
It was a good thing to see a Toronto boy squeak back into the lineup too. I mean, we're talking about guys who haven't cut corners. I said Brooks has been waiting for his chance, patiently grinding it out in Toronto, which is never an easy place to grind it out and make the transition, especially not right now. Same thing goes to Dermott. Dermott started off playing for such a poor Leafs team that he got a bunch of reins right out the gate, and have it kind of taken away from him so quickly. I can imagine what that does to a player's confidence, and he's still good. It's just he hasn't really elevated above that baseline of good that we've got from him. So some nights this will happen, but again, happy he was in there because he means a lot to the morale of the team. He's been here for a while, and I like Dermott.
And then last thing before we get into our grades, Nick Felina didn't play again tonight, hence Adam Brooks getting in there, taking over Riley Nash's spot because Nash stepped in for Felina being out. Do you think Felina will be back in the lineup for Thursday's Game 5?
I'd probably rest him until the next series.
Yeah,
You don't
same
you don't
page.
need to play him. Don't
Yeah.
need to play him because when he plays close to the line. He's probably got a higher chance of being injured just by being out there than most players, and especially if it's going down the crapshoot pretty visibly, and then the Canadians get chippy. They might try to fight to get the game sparked, or just some garbage happens where he needs to go defend his teammates and then soak a massive sussy. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, and you got like a guy like Wayne Simmons, Zach Bogosian, who can step up and take over that if they need to. So yeah, I'm same page as you here. Don't play him Game 5. Hopefully the Leafs close this one out and you go 4-1. Take your rest before the next series starts against Winnipeg. Then he can be 100% ready to go for Game 1 of that series. And at that point, you're rolling again. Like you've upped the lineup once again, adding in a player like that. You're just like stepping up the level of intensity and skill that comes back into this lineup. And then as far as Game 5 goes against the Canadiens, I just roll out this same lineup again. I would switch out Dermott and Sandy, but other than that, roll them out again. Jack Campbell, stay in the net, and everyone else, like, let's run it back, because what they did tonight was exactly what we need to see from them. And then, yeah, just switch out Sandy and Dermott, and I think we're good to go. But
Yeah, that little adjustment would be fine, but I'm totally on the same page. Why not keep it going?
yeah, exactly. They played great tonight. So what's the point of switching that up? Especially like you look at that second line. You're not going to move anybody around there for no reason. Maybe they keep going and you swap Felino into the third line somehow, and then now you have even more depth going into it. But that's all decisions that Sheldon Keefe will make when the time comes. I just think that they roll out the same lineup for Thursday's Game 5. Now, let's get into our grades of the game. So, I'm going to give tonight's grade. So last episode, I did A- for my grade. Tonight, I'm going to step it up to an A, and it's really because I think that they made some improvements on last game. So, first of all, I'm going to go to an A because Campbell shutout. Congratulations to him. First career playoff shutout. That's awesome. He grabbed his first career playoff win 2 nights ago. That was huge to see for him, for his confidence, and for the confidence of the boys. But then one of the things or two real things that I had kind of been concerned about in last episode was that the Leafs had to kind of squeeze out a greasy one in that 2-1 win, and they really fought in that third period to just play defense, and just there was no real offense coming from them. Tonight we got to see they stepped up on the offensive end. It wasn't where it needs to be, hence why I'm not giving it an A+. They scored 4 goals, and you grab an empty netter, which is a good thing to do, but you still did get a little bit offensively dominated in that third period, and they were on their heels a little bit. So for that reason, I can't fully quite get there with the A+, but they did step up in that they did transition to have a little bit more offense and have to be less on their heels, but I still think there can be some work to be done there, not getting outshot as much as they did. But I guess at that point, if you're winning a game 3-0 in the third period of a playoffs, the other team's probably going to up the intensity to try and fight back. So it's only naturally going to happen that they're going to be buzzing like that and trying to generate as many chances. But if you're going to try and take it to that next step and win a Stanley Cup, I think you just got to shut those chances down completely and just completely eliminate it, quiet the game down, continue playing offense, continue playing your game, and just end it out that way.
I'm with you here. I'm giving them an A as well. It was a solid game. They shut out the Habs. Can't ask for much more than that. To get the empty netter to stat pad it up to 4-0. It was a solid, dominant game from the get-go, I thought. First 2 periods have been better than the third 2 nights in a row. Yeah. So that's something you got to look at. And you got to, if you're going to be good in any period, you want it to be the third. It's the crucial crunch time. So hopefully we can see them get a bit more statistically dominant, but even then they're not getting scored on a whole ton. So we're good to keep rolling. One other thing that kept me from giving this the A+ is just the refs. They helped us tonight. I'll be completely honest. And the third, it made it a little bit closer. I think they had some makeup calls, but early on, we were taking just the slightest shots and trips even at times and hooks, and we weren't getting called on them. And I was sitting there with a couple guys, and we all agreed we're getting some help from the whistle right now. It feels good to say that out loud, because 99% of the time in sports you're criticizing it, but it also made me realize that we're getting a little extra help here that I'm not used to seeing. For that reason, I'm giving them just an A, the A plus. If we keep playing like this, it's coming soon, but A is a great grade and it was a great game.
Yeah, it was a great game all around. Leafs take this one 4-0 to take a 3-1 series lead against Montreal Canadiens in the first round of the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs. We are fired up. My series prediction of Leafs in 5 is still alive. I guess Goody's readjusted Leafs in 6 is still there, but let's hope it doesn't come down to that. We want to see the Leafs close this one out on Thursday.
I don't want to be right.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be back Thursday, May 27th after the game at 7 p.m. against the Montreal Canadiens, Game 5. We'll see you guys then.